heroin is something that we started a couple of years ago to try to just group all of the stories about the heroin epidemic that we at the Inquirer were doing. And then in January, although I've been covering the epidemic for about 4 years, I was also a general assignment reporter in Northern Kentucky. And so then in January, our newer editor, our latest editor, Peter Bhatia, decided that this was soon to be having, a big impact on our communities here. And he made me a heroin epidemic reporter full time. So that's how that all began. More specifically, we've made, progress with a lot of progress with saving lives of people who are heroin and opioid addicted. But one of the ways that, it's still one of the areas that still needs work is getting people evidence-based treatment for this disease of addiction. And with heroin and opioid use, experts say that medication-assisted treatment is really the best, and there are different ways of doing this. So UC's latest addition is an intensive outpatient center, which is different from just doing outpatient and obviously different from residential care. It allows people who are at a good place to have a lot more independence in their lives than if they were in a residential setting. But it also gives them more care, more support than what a traditional outpatient setting would be, so that they're coming in a few times a week to the center. Many of them are getting medication treatment as well as the group therapies and individual counseling. And it also lets more people it will probably allow more people to get addiction treatment that they need because, we have a dearth of treatment facilities, and this is a little less expensive, and the medications and generally the therapies are covered by insurance. One of the issues here in our area is that I don't believe we have a good count of those who are actually addicted, and that's not uncommon nationwide. There's an estimate that only 11% of people, 11 to 15% of people are getting treated for any kind of addiction. But certainly in the last 5 or 6 years, and probably starting before that, our area in particular has had a problem with opioid addiction. So that's, the painkillers, the prescribed painkillers. And because of, that, we've had our governments really come down on physicians who were over-prescribing painkillers and the pill mills where people used to line up and get medication, and obviously some of them didn't need it, or many of them didn't need to continue it. But then what happened was you had this population already addicted, and in steps heroin. The Mexican cartels primarily started to sell it here. They saw a good market for it, and people who were addicted already to opioids found heroin as a substitute and became addicted to that. From what I have learned, it was simply that the pharmaceutical companies did market their drugs to people who were, to physicians, and showed very minimal test results that indicated that OxyContin, for example, was not highly addictive. So then doctors started prescribing this, and we know that this country has an issue with pain. We report a lot of pain, and I doubt if we're in more pain than any other country, but People go and ask for medication, and for quite a while, people were getting it. And the reason why our suburbs now are a point of heroin heroin use in greater proportions is that a lot of these folks were people who had insurance and had coverage and got those medications. And then once doctors started pulling back on prescriptions and states started suing big-time pharmaceuticals, and pill mills were getting shut down, there was this addicted population, and they turned to heroin. So we are seeing a population that probably 30, 40 years ago appeared to be relatively untouched by heroin addiction that is now addicted to heroin. And then with heroin becomes, these stronger synthetic opiates such as fentanyl and carfentanil, which are getting mixed in with heroin or sold on the streets as heroin, purported to be heroin. And then we have greater numbers of overdose deaths and overdoses in general.
Hey, Terry, I wanted to take a second to say thank you for your post on here. It was fantastic. I'm leaving you this message in the wee small hours of the morning, so I have much more to say, but I'm exhausted. I went to an auction tonight and my brain feels like mush, but I really appreciate the way you presented the information to us, and it's really cool to kind of have some more background as to why so many people are ending up using heroin and becoming addicted to it. So again, thank you so much. Have a great evening, or whatever you get this. May it be great.
Hey Terry, Denver Jones here from Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, First, I've never read your column, but I want to tell you how much I appreciate you bringing the heroin overdose epidemic to the forefront, because the more awareness we create, the better the opportunity to save a life, the better the possibilities are, the better the odds are to possibly beat or prevent another overdose. I speak from both sides of the fence when I speak about the heroin epidemic, because I am a recovering addict and alcoholic. So I have experience from both sides. I got hooked on alcohol at a very early age and turned to drugs mid-teens, and from there things just snowballed and progressively got worse. I ended up in prison, but you're right about it's so much worse than what's recorded or documented, because I've seen soccer moms pull up to a shooting gallery and get out of their minivans and go inside and shoot heroin. I've even seen a soccer mom or two not come out of a shooting gallery in an upright position. It's a sad, sad thing. I've only been blind a short time, but I would love to have an opportunity to sit down with you and share some of my thoughts and ideas on what can be done in an IOP setting, IOP being intensive outpatient program. I think you're aware of some of the terminology based on what I've heard from your excerpt. So, if you care to reach out to me, again, I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I don't know if you have access to this app or not. I understand that these are recorded messages. So I don't know how we could hook up, but I would certainly like to share some insight and maybe get some insight from you on how I could better give back to my community that I took so much away from some 20 years ago. So, anyway, hope to hear from you, and you take care. Again, I am very appreciative of you bringing this to the forefront. Thank you so much for speaking of it.